Class A, the 1 and the 2 division. Did anything surprise you this past week with A1 and A2 other than Amherst has really started to play some incredible football these last 3 weeks? They've won 3 in a row now, I believe.
Well, with Amherst, when you take a look at, the kid that transferred from St. Joe's, and he had an outstanding game, and he's an outstanding two-way player. He makes a difference. But Nick O'Neill is an outstanding defenseman. And when you take a look at Amherst, they've been down for a number of years. Right now, when you look at the A's, and you look at particularly in A2, you have South Park and Stair Point that'll get 1-2. There's 5 other teams that are going to be competing for those other 2 slots, and that's not going to be determined until after the games this weekend.
So Amherst was a surprise to some, maybe, that win last week.
Oh, I think it was a definite surprise.
Okay.
But last year, Albion wound up undefeated in the regular season. I think they lost the first playoff game. This year, when you took a look at Amherst and what they've been able to do, if they're able to be one of those teams to get into the playoffs, they can be a force.
Yeah, absolutely. I was taken back by that Will South West Seneca East game. I checked the score on that. It looked like West Seneca East was up quite a bit, and Will South came back in the second half. Did you happen to see any of that game or get some stats? Or
Well, I think that if you take a look at Williamsville South, they were 0-2. They won, 3 straight games, and they beat some, really solid teams. West Seneca East, if you go into that game, looked like they were going to be favored. DeVar Mathis had 5 touchdowns. He's their big MVP. And if you look at it, I think it's the players for Williamsville South have really come to play and understand. And the thing I like about this season for Craig Krasinski is he lost his dad, who was at every game that he ever played or he ever coached. And he just wanted those kids to have the rest of this season basically on Fred's memory, and they even had the signature on their jerseys. And I just think that when they play South Park this week, I don't see many teams matching up with South Park. So Williamsville South goes from 3-2 to 3-3. They're going to be, I think, 4 or 5 teams that are going to be 5-3. 3-3.
Yeah, I mean, if Will South does happen to beat South Park, they will get the 3 seed. If Will South and GI Grand Island wins, Will South gets the 3 seed, and then there's a 3-way tie then for the 4th spot between Grand Island, West Seneca East, and Sweet Home. So, we'll have obviously this week we'll iron everything, all the playoff scenarios. They'll iron them all out. But South Park still, as you mentioned, the team to beat. Not too many, if any, match up well with South Park, as they're at 5-0 after dismantling Hutch Tech. Star Point, it's good to see them send Coach Kevin Arrow off with the win up there. Al Tudor Stadium?
Al Kevin Arrow, he needs one more win, which would come against rival Lockport to give him his 100 wins for his career, because he's retiring after this. Just a quick couple of comments. One was Anthony McCarley, who excelled playing for the Tigers, and also Will Gerzone, the quarterback for Williamsville South, had over 250 yards passing, had a couple of touchdowns, but he sets the tone for that team.
Yeah. Gerzone, I believe, finished with 5 touchdown passes in that game.
You're right.
5 touchdowns. John Clifford had a couple of touchdowns. Zach Sutton had a couple of touchdowns. And Jeremy Matute, who was a Connolly Cup top performer, he had 51 yards, 110 yards receiving and a touchdown. So if Will South really did a number offensively in that game, maybe that woke up their offense, because their offense was a little bit lacking at times, especially in the beginning of the year. So that could have been a wake-up call for Will South. They actually ran into Chris Glenn Saturday night. We didn't get to chat too much, but I saw him, and he was still celebrating the big win.
That's Billy Country. If you win, you celebrate.
Absolutely. So Star Point sends El Cavanero off with the win. South Park wins. Will South wins. West Seneca East falls to 3-3. Sweet Home, they had a big win Thursday night. They're at 3-3, and Grand Island 2-3, and they welcome Amherst. What do you see in that Amherst Grand Island game? That has playoff implications.
It's got a lot of implications, but I think if you take a look at it, Amherst, if they continue to play like they have the last few games, that's going to be a tough opponent for the Vikings. But when you take a look at what Dean Santoro has done over the years, both as a player and a coach, he's excelled and pretty much coming up with a big game. His coaching staff has been together for about 20 years, and that game, to me, is a toss-up. But if McCarley can have the type of game that they had and provide the leadership in O'Neill, and they avoid the turnovers and penalties, they could wind up at least competing for a playoff berth. We're not going to know that until Sunday.
Over on the A1 side, McKinley, Kenmore West, West Seneca West, they continue to win. Max improved to 5-0, where Ken West is 5-1. West Seneca West is 5-1. McKinley should be 6-0, shouldn't they be?
6-0.
Okay. We got to get a coach to verify the score there. They got a plus 82 point differential there, so they're in control up there, and they should ride into the sunset as the A1 division champion. Will North at 3-2 ran into Coach Mamalotti this past weekend as well.
Well, you look at it, it can be pick your poison. Williamsville North's probably going to get the fourth spot. They're going to have to play with South Park in the first quarterfinal. That's a tough matchup. If you look in the A1, you look at Ken West that beat West Seneca West pretty handily the first game. And then if you take a look at West getting the third pick, it still comes down to it that the championship game could be between McKinley and South Park at the stadium.
I think a lot of people want to see that game already.
Well, when you take a look at it, it's Smash Mouth football at its best, and the talent level is exceptional, and Timmy Delaney does an outstanding job. When you take a look at South Park and you look at the junior quarterback and Michael Penburn. But if you look at what he's done stat-wise, but they have 8 or 9 players on both sides of the ball that are physical, that are fast, that are talented, and play smash mouth football. And one that leads that is, I think it's Michael Fluid, who's the defensive line. He had up through 5 games, he had 64 tackles and 12 sacks, and he's just a force, and they've got him playing the ball. And if you need 2 yards in a cloud of dust, he'll give you 10.
Absolutely. It's rivalry week, so, you got Ken West, Kenmore East. You got Will East, I believe, playing Will North, TNT week. So a lot of great rivalry-type matchups. Anyone that you're going to go to in particular Friday or Saturday?
Maybe Ken West, Ken East game. But if the one that's interesting is Faulkner and Southwestern. Southwestern has won 22 consecutive games in that rivalry series. And if you take a look at this year, it's a no-brainer. They're going to win their 23rd. It'll be also very interesting how the Trojans connect with the new interim coach, even though he's been around for quite a while. And to me, they're the class of Class C, but Wilson also is a force, and they've got a pretty much dominated senior team.
That's going to do it for Class A. We're going to be back in just a few moments to talk about Class B after a word from our sponsors.